right.
According to the computer, it's got 2 minutes. That's wrong.
We're up there. She's got it up. She's got us on.
Mr. Marley's gonna be late.
We got to,
Yeah, he's going to be late.
We got to adjust that clock over
At
there.
this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order. I appreciate everyone that is in attendance this evening. This is an opportunity this evening also for our budget hearing, so we do hope those that are here watching us online will pay close attention to what we're planning for the coming year. Also, I'd like to let you know that Commissioner Marley will be arriving, but it will probably be later. It is his duty in his job to present the budget in Hope County, so he will be there presenting the budget just like we are here, and then he'll come directly from there. He did send me an email, though, and he did say that if we chose to vote on the budget this evening, that he was in agreement with it, and you could count him as a positive. At this time, I'd like to recognize Dr. Ron Godbolt from Word of Truth Ministry to give us our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you all will, please rise.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day you blessed us to see. We thank you for life, health, and strength, for this opportunity to come together in fellowship. We pray now that you would bless the business at hand. We pray a bless your blessing for the families that's lost loved ones through these shootings over the last couple of weeks. We pray your comfort to those families and keep our city covered and protected from those type of evil acts. We give you praise for your protection and your covering, and for those that are in the meeting tonight and the decisions that are going to be made, and that your people might be blessed. For that, we give you all the praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to add item C under new business for a discussion about a workshop session.
Okay. Are there any other?
Yeah.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Uh-huh.
I would like F, G, and H also moved to new business.
F, G, and H from the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that will be item D, E, and F on under new business.
No doubt. Let me say E.
And
Yeah.
anything else? Any others?
Motion to accept the agenda as corrected.
All right, I have a motion to accept the agenda with the additions and the moving of consent items over to our new business items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All righty, thank you. Seeing none opposed. At this time, we have official comments, and I will start with Commissioner Legg.
I'm just glad to see people out here tonight. The weather's cooled down a little bit. The good Lord's watching over us. I just hope and pray that we get this budget approved and get everything through today, and that it will meet all necessary functions for the town.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mitchell?
Good evening, everyone. I want to take this moment to thank the Park and Rec staff, the Police Department, the VFW, the American Legion, for the Memorial Day event that we had last weekend. It was a very successful and effective event. I want to also thank Don Talbot for the period of years he put in conducting the one that they have downtown. I think it's been, 25 plus years, Don, that you've been doing this? And he has been doing an outstanding job over the period of years. By the way, he's looking for a replacement. That's all that, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I just want to take two liberties, and one is that we've had a meeting of our Veterans Memorial Renovation or Relocation Committee. The fact they've had 2 meetings, but the one that we had this past week, it was very productive. We had a lot of interest in planning and doing it in phases. But I also wanted to bring to everyone's attention, because I think it's appropriate, is that as we went in, or as our legislators went back to what's called the short session, I was asked, and again, we've been very fortunate. We do have Representative Zoka and Senator Devier there, and they both have agreed that they will request, and hopefully it'll be approved, $300,000 for our Veterans Memorial Park. And this way, we would have money to not tax the citizens, and it would also be seed money that we could start possibly with additional fundraisers as needed. So just so you will know, there is a plan moving forward, but it would not be ever approved until it came to this board for approval. And it would also be a plan that would have to be approval of our veterans. We do have very active veterans here in Hope Mills, and we want them to make the big decision that will be brought to the board as far as the final decision. So I just think that's good news. And I too enjoyed the Memorial Day service. I think it was very well attended, and we did, again, our VFW and our Veterans Affairs Committee, they did a great job. And I thank you, Mr. Morris, for everything, or Commander Morris, for everything that you did to make that happen. It was a team effort, but we had to have a leader, had to have someone that was kind of organized, and you did. It went very well. And I appreciate the fact that the attendance this time was well attended, but also they stayed for the reception also. So that was a great thing too. And I'm now Mayor Pro Tem.
Good afternoon, everyone. I too would like to thank everyone who planned the Memorial Day service. I enjoyed it, as I always do. And I wanted to let everybody know that we graduated our first class that completed the wood framing class at Southview on last month. The electrical training class will begin June 20th here at Parks and Recs, because the school is, the hours have changed because of the summer. And lastly, I would like to invite everyone to the Juneteenth celebrations that begin in Hope Mills on June 16th at Dirtbag Ales, and those festivities go throughout the county through June 19th. And that is all I have. And I have a lot of other things, but I think I'll cover it under my reports on Parks and Rec and the reports for the prime mover.
And another further thing about Memorial Day, I want to compliment this board, because as well as I can remember, since I've been mayor, this is the first time we had a perfect attendance. We had the entire board there, and the entire board presented the wreath. And that's a first. And so I want to thank them for being here. But I think it speaks well of this board showing up and being there, and especially an important occasion like Memorial Day. Okay.
Everyone should pat themselves on the back. I'd like to thank everyone for being here again this evening. It's always good to see faces in the audience. Also, it was a great Memorial Day ceremony. What was I going to say?
Getting old.
I know. Humble apologies. It probably wasn't important then. Oh, yes. The New York Rangers are 2-1 in the conference. Go ahead. That's it. It wasn't important, though. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. And at this time, we have presentations, and I have a couple of special presentations. The first proclamation I'd like to read is the proclamation of Amateur Radio Operator Recognition Day, June 25th through 26th. Whereas the Cape Fear Amateur Radio Society will hold field days on June 25th through 26th at Goffview Greenway. Whereas Amateur Radio Emergency Services, ARES, and Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services, RACES, have been trained to provide effective emergency communication and support. Whereas during times of national, state, and local emergency, and for community and public events, amateur radio operators have provided communication resources at no cost. Whereas amateur radio operators provide weather spotting and reporting activities through the Skywarn program and ham radio educational activities. Field days are an opportunity for hams to hone their emergency preparedness skills. Now, therefore, I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the Town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim June 25th and 26th to be Amateur Radio Operator Recognition Day in Hope Mills. And I'd like to ask Mr. Talbot he would come forward. Let me give him, and those others that are with you that are the radio operators, come on up. Let me give you this special certificate and proclamation.
Well, I need to bring up the president of the society.
Well, bring the president on up, and then let me tell you that we're excited that you chose Hope Mills to have your field day. Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming down to Fayetteville Memorial Day.
Not a problem.
And this gives me a great honor because I think this is something that's, again, is special recognition and a special positive thing for the town of Hope Mills. And this is a Juneteenth proclamation. Whereas at 2 p.m. on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1863, using his war powers as president, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. Whereas the Emancipation Proclamation made the permanent abolition of slavery a Union war aim and provided the legal framework for the emancipation of nearly 4 million slaves as the Union armies advanced. Whereas Juneteenth, a blending of the words June and 19th, is the oldest known U.S. celebration of the end of slavery. It commemorates June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of both the Civil War and slavery. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them, and becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. And whereas Texans began the celebration of Juneteenth in 1866 with community events such as parades, cookouts, prayer gatherings, musical performances, and historical cultural readings. And as freed families immigrated from Texas to other parts of the United States, they carried the Juneteenth celebration with them. Whereas Al Edwards, a freshman state representative, put forward the bill, House Bill 1016 in 1979, making Texas the first state to grant this emancipation celebration. Whereas this year, being the first full year of Juneteenth becoming a federally recognized holiday, Cumberland County residents will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Kenwana McCray as the first black elected official in the town of Hope Mills and honor her at the Juneteenth Jubilee Heritage Brunch at Studio 15 on Sunday, June 19, 2022. Therefore, we, the Hope Mills Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2022 as Juneteenth in Hope Mills and wish the best and very proud of our Mayor Pro Tem. Next, we have public hearings, and our first public hearing is for the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. And I'll turn it over to Scott.
Yeah, so we implemented all the additions from the work session. We have presented a balanced budget to you with all of the identified changes. We did go back and add in the bus route information and all the things from the changes. There were only 2 changes at the work session. We did revise all of the fees, so several of the fees hadn't been updated in many years. All of the staff worked on that very diligently. All the department heads did put a lot of work into this document, and I think it's a really good proposal. And you know, like with any budget, we have things that come up and changes, but I think it's a good framework to get us moving forward. Later, you'll see the budget amendments for those other state and federal funds. The state funds last year. Do you have anything on that? How much of the questions?
We do have questions.
Okay.
Section 3, item A and B.
That's on the agenda, right? That's on tab 3, right?
Yes. tab 3, section 3, items A and B. If you all could explain that in a little bit more detail, please.
So you're just asking about this, the regulation that allows us to transfer funds within the line item?
Yeah, within the line item and within the department without limitation and without a report being required.
So I, yeah, go ahead.
Report meaning it doesn't have to come for official approval from the council. For instance, if in the finance department, I want to move money from, say, supplies to maintenance, I can do an internal budget amendment to do that without having to bring it to the council. I sign off on it, the department head signs off on it. It's an internal adjustment. It doesn't increase the overall budget. It's no change in the overall budget, and it's not even moving it from one department to another department. It's just within that one department.
Now,
This has been, it's a standard. It's been in the budget every year.
first
Most
time,
towns have it the same way.
that's the first time I've seen language like that in the budget, and you know, actually raised a red flag to me. And when, as a department head or a department leader, when I have my budget, it's my budget. And before any funds is moved around, anything to tamper with, you must talk to me first. If that's the way it works.
Do you have, is that a question I'm trying to
Yes,
figure out?
yes, ma'am, that's a question. Is that the way it works? What I'm saying, let's say that, you, like you said, supplies, or you wanna move over here, right, in the department,
He's talking within his department.
within my,
Right,
right,
within
within
your
my department, right, that's what I'm
Right, you would
saying.
make a request,
Right,
it'd come to me, and then I'd approve it.
so it's about approval of the department head, you know, that request that change.
Right.
That's what you're saying?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that's not what it says there, though. It said the budget officer may transfer amount between lines.
Within
Out
a
of-
department,
and
without
within the
limitation,
department,
and
without
without a report being
limitation.
required. I do have a report, there is a form,
Right.
but it doesn't have to come as a report.
Right, I understand. I
That's
got,
it.
I got our piece, you know. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In other words.
between
it's a-
line item
yeah.
I
of
understand.
expenditures within a
Yeah.
I
department.
got that, and I've been understood, you know.
Okay.
That's not a problem, I'm just saying. Long as department heads has some input in that process, I don't have a problem with it, because
They're
once.
the ones that request it.
Okay, so it's a request by the department heads.
Yes. It's
Okay.
instigated by their department head.
That language, you know, I don't know, because it's so, that language is so ambiguous that when it's in there like that. Go ahead, I'm done.
Mayor,
Okay, all right.
I also agree, just because it's been done that way in the past. I don't like the verbiage because, the without a report being required. So even though it's within that same department, you know, that's very, non-transparent. Is there a possibility we can change that?
We
or-
can.
Yeah.
There is a, it's not really a report, it's a document that I track because we have to show every budget amendment to the auditors when they come in. So there is a document. I guess the report that's talking about here, it's not like an official capacity, again, that has to be approved by council. If it does involve either capital outlay or salaries and benefits, I require the town manager to at least approve that.
No, just to follow up.
So
So-
is your issue without a report being required?
Yeah, because I mean, you know, what's the point of a budget if stuff's gonna be moved around and we're not tracking it? You know, it
Well, we
kind
do
of,
track it. I have to.
you can track it, but
You can't track it.
we can't track it, or I can't look at it, and I just don't feel comfortable, you know. You may not have to, you know, depending on the statute or whatever, it may not have to come to the council and vote on it, but I would like to see where money is being moved to, even if it's interdepartment. I mean,
Or it can go on, sorry,
you know, you
Madam
could,
Mayor. Or it can go on consent. I would be okay with it being on consent. I think the other problem is the budget officer. So maybe changing that wording and maybe adding it as a consent item just so we could make sure we're tracking it, that we can see it.
And, well, here's the other question, is the word without limitation. I don't like that word without limitation. I really don't. You know, I don't know how anybody else feel about it, without limitation. Trust me, when you tell me without limitation, I go rogue. I'm gonna just keep it real. You know, I know everybody else don't, but I mean, and I skate the lines. I'm not saying you're doing that or
Right.
anything like that, but that word is I'm
Right.
telling
The
you.
only reason it says that is because it's not changing the bottom line of that department's budget.
Mm-hmm.
If it's increasing the budget overall, that has to come before the council.
That piece I got on.
So if your total budget for your departments, just say it's, $300,000, that does not change.
No, I
But if
got
you
that
need to
piece.
move it within that department, that's allowable. Let me think. Another way to word this then.
With limitation.
It might be helpful too. if you
Without
could
just
provide a
taking-
training on how to read the financial report every month.
I know how to read a financial report. Trust me. I read too many budgets and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that. It's the language. Is what I'm saying. It's the language. I think that's just everybody else said. It's the language. I can read anything you throw before me when it comes to money. It really doesn't matter. But I'm just concerned about when language is vague like this. This language, that is really and I know he's not gonna do anything to put himself in jail, in jeopardy, but at the same time, the language is not good business language. Matter of fact, that's a good word for it. It's not good business language. Come on now, let's be for real. Keep it real. Business language. 101.
I mean, suggestion, Madam Mayor. Maybe instead of saying without a report being required, maybe as, on the consent agenda, as,
Well, the only thing, if we
Statute.
put it on consent agenda, you have to approve it.
Right.
The point is, for internal budget amendments like this, it does not need council approval.
okay.
If I
Madam
put
Mayor.
it on consent,
So
then you're
how,
approving it.
what about the last part of the sentence just being removed in, without limitation, without a
trying
report
to
being
come up with-
required? The budget officer with the approval of the department head and town manager
Town
may
manager,
transfer
yes.
amounts between line expenditure, item expenditures
Yes.
within a department, period. I think it's the whole without limitation and
Right.
without a report being required.
I see
think
what you're
it's-
asking. You're wanting to get rid of without limitation, but you want some documentation to follow with it,
Could I make
which
a
we do
suggestion?
that.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Do we have, and I think this is what y'all are going for, something along the lines of the budget officer, upon request of the department head, may transfer amounts between line item expenditures within a department, without a formal vote of the town council. However, a report should be presented to the town council following each transfer.
That works for me.
Yeah,
Or on a regular basis, because you don't want every single
I
one.
know.
Maybe once a month, here's what came through
I know.
that
like the
month.
first meeting of the month or something.
Or quarterly,
Yeah.
let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
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 I think that, Madam Mayor.
And whatever
Yeah.
works for the town manager as well in that process.
Okay, so the wording that was given to us by the
Yeah.
attorney, is that satisfactory?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll work on that wording. I guess if you want to approve it tonight, then do it with that caveat with the changes as discussed in the meeting, and then I'll make that change. And when we put it online, it will have, any future copies will have that change on it.
And I guess
If that's
you
okay
need to
with y'all.
decide before you vote on that, do you want the language to be at the next meeting, or do you want it to be quarterly, monthly?
When it comes to money, I think that you should. Matter of fact, we can let the town manager look at that and decide what would be best appropriate. Town manager, would that works for you? All right.
I mean, we're not gonna have any budget amendments on next year's budget this year.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions in reference to that? All right, how about, any other questions? Have you got something else?
Just to clarify, I think that means we're gonna be formally adopting the budget at the next meeting, so is there any other language that y'all want changed, so that when we bring it back to the next meeting, it's the final document?
This is a public hearing, we still have to.
You can still have the public hearing.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I guess for clarification purposes, when the budget officer may transfer amounts up to $15,000 between departments of the same fund and report as part of the financial statement. Now, plain layman's term, what does that really mean?
So you can move between departments, not within a department, so you can move
Oh,
from one
yeah.
department to another, $15,000.
You're asking about B now?
Yes.
Okay. B means if I'm moving money from one department to another, it's limited to 15,000. It cannot be over that, and the town manager has to approve it as well.
All right,
If it's
what-
over that, it has to come to council.
So do the department heads have any say-so in that? If
They're
you,
usually the ones that initiate it.
so they're the ones that initiated then?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the biggest, is because I have moved money.
What
between,
happens is
you know.
somebody has to be responsible for it.
Right, I
What
know.
these statements are doing is saying the budget officer, myself and the manager,
Mm-hmm.
have the authority to do this. The department heads do not have the authority to do a budget transfer.
Oh, yeah.
They initiate it, and then somebody has to have the authority to be
Right.
able to approve it and enact it.
So they
That's the
initiate it.
budget officer.
And that's one I'm concerned, because I'm being honest with you, I have moved money from departments to another department without anybody's approval, because I had the authority to do it. You
Right.
know, because I made the decision at the time that it was required. But my biggest concern is making sure department heads are aware and involved in that process before it happens.
They are. They're
Okay.
usually the ones that initiate it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, can that be added as a quarterly as well? It just helps, to me, it just helps us track it better. And when people are planning to budget for the next year, they can have something concise, if it's monthly, if it's quarterly, something to pull it together and kind of can see in an easier format what funds was transferred, why. I know you probably go back and track that as well, but I think for accountability and transparency, it's probably best if we're just able to see that as well. I don't know if that's at the will of the council or not.
That's fine. We can do that. I have documentation for every budget amendment that happens because I have to track it. So,
Mayor,
Yes?
I just have one question. The budget officer may make cash advances between funds. Can
Which
you,
one's that one?
it's
That
section
same-
4.
Same bottom,
Okay,
right down there at the bottom.
It's right after,
right.
Okay.
We've never had to do that,
okay,
but it is an option. If we don't have that, then, we're not able to. If I have to move money between funds, we only have the general fund. It's
Yeah.
our main fund. But we also have a power bill fund, a stormwater fund, and several capital project funds.
Right.
If for some reason, say like the ARP, which is a budget amendment tonight, that's establishing a fund to spend that money.
yeah,
If we determine that one of those projects needs more money than we're getting into ARP funds, if we want to go ahead and get that project done, I can go ahead and move money into that fund to make sure the project happens, and then bring the budget amendment to you after the fact if I have to, for certain purposes.
Okay.
If we're going to lose out on a bid or a contract because this has to happen now, or if we don't act on this, we could pay more in the
Right.
future. We can go ahead and move that money as cash, and then do the budget amendment after the fact.
okay,
That just allows you to do it. We haven't had to do that, but it's an option if we ever need to.
okay.
That's just an example of being able to do it.
And will we put a copy of that bus route somewhere so people can see what that bus route is going to look like?
I think Lamarco has all the bus route information.
Okay, because I think the community needs to know that we will be partnering with the city of Fayetteville, Cumberland County Commissioners, and what we'll have will be a fast bus line that'll be considered an express line that has it'll go around Hope Mills, it'll go to Cape Fear Valley Hospital, and it'll go to Cross Creek Mall. And then from there, you can get a transfer to other locations, and the times and schedules will be posted so that you could actually, if you wanted to go to the appointments, or if you wanted to go to, say, down to downtown Fayetteville, you'd have a way of getting there. But it would circle Hope Mills. It'd go all, and they'll have bus stops. It would, if everything goes well, it would start September, October this year. But that will be a good thing for Hope Mills, especially for those people that lack transportation.
Yeah, that'll be done through the Parks and Rec program.
Okay.
You can look at the magistrates, what makes me-
Okay. And that could be something we could have next meeting, as far as, because both entities that will be approving budgets this month. Okay. Anything else, y'all, that you can see? Any other questions, concerns, changes?
Do you have to open a public hearing before?
Yes.
Motion to open public hearing.
Okay, at this time, we're opening public hearing in reference to our budget. Is there anyone here that would like to speak, or anyone here that has any questions in reference to our budget?
Motion to close public hearing.
Okay, public hearing is closed. I will let you know that there is no tax increase. It is a balanced budget. It has in it, because of additional funding that we got, we do have, some special projects that will be able to be moving forward, such as our splash pad, our universal playground, the stormwater project in, in East Patterson Street, fixing the wall that's washing away. We've got money to repair that. Heritage Park is on go. So there's a lot of things. Plus we've got money to do a start at the ball field. So the ball field at Golfview. So we'll have up there a couple of fields that we can start in following our plan for the golf course. So there's a lot of good things in the budget this year, but I think the most important thing for our community is there's no tax increase. It's a balanced budget, and we're satisfied with it. And you can see just by the questions that were asked by the council, they've done a great job as far as reviewing it and preparation of it. I want to thank and commend our town manager and our finance department and all of our department heads for the work that you've done to get us to this point in a document that it looks good and a document that we can use. Now, we can approve this document this evening, and that would mean that the approval would come with the correction, since that's the only correction we have. And then that way it can move forward. And I do have Commissioner Marley's approval, and I do have that in writing. I can give that to you also, where he said that he was in favor of the budget. But if there is a motion to approve this budget with that change, then we can do that this evening. So do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor? Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the budget, subject to the changes and corrections made.
Okay, so we have a
Second.
motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? And those changes are actually in section 3, and that would be under those items under section 3. And those would be the changes that we've directed our town attorney and our town manager and our finance officer that we would like. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, thank you very much, and the budget's done. Yes, sir.
So the items in the ARPA is in the consent agenda, agenda item under item number 7.
Okay. Okay.
It's on consent.
Okay, when we get to there, when we get consent agenda, I'll read that so they'll know what the funds that we got from the ARP funds and the funds that we got from the state, they're on a separate budget line. They're not within this budget, but we do have what those items are so that you'll know. Okay? Next thing on our agenda is public hearing for annexation A 2022-04. A contiguous annexation containing 6 acres, more or less, on Corporation Drive, and it's owned by Beers and Trees LLC, and I'll turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Hello, Madam Mayor. This is basically the tail end of an annexation. You should have in your packets 2 documents. One is the plan review memo with the recommendations from the different departments, and then a brief staff report. This is, it says Beers and Trees, but this is the owners of Dirtbag Ales and Dirty Whiskey. They're continuing to develop along Corporation Drive. This 6 acres is their approach towards a 6-acre commercial development right beside. So if you recall, we just approved a subdivision recently. This the entrance is right beside Dirtbag Ales. This is on the other side of that entrance. So lined along that side of the street, you have Dirty Whiskey, Dirtbag Ales, an entrance to a subdivision, and then a 6-acre development, which is commercial. I can't disclose the business, but I think I can say it is a sit-down restaurant. I just can't say the name. And a couple more developments. But what you have before you tonight is the public hearing for the full adoption of the annexation and a request to begin the initial zoning of commercial, which I'll basically begin probably tomorrow. But I'm open to any questions that you have.
Madam Mayor,
Parking.
I'm sorry.
I've had the request for information about parking because this past weekend,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
I mean, is there a limitation, even though it's outdoors, is there a limitation to how many people can be there?
Typically, that's one of the conundrums with parking. Most of and mostly all of our regulations in our zoning ordinance are minimum requirements. So when we're talking about parking, it's the minimum requirements of parking. We're far exceeding that. But what I will say is there are two things that they're doing. The entrance to the subdivision that is beside them has a cross access behind Dirtbag L's that provides a direct connection to this 6-acre parcel. And I think what they did by developing so large of a tract is that there's going to be a massive parking lot that's associated with this commercial development that will provide access to Dirtbag L's without having to go out on Corporation Drive. So there's some things moving in place. They have sidewalks that they've done in front of Dirty Whiskey and Dirtbag L's. Sidewalks will be required in front of this development. Liberty Point Building 1 just installed their sidewalks. We're moving with buildings 2 and 3, and it'll have sidewalks. So you'll have a continuous sidewalk on both sides of Corporation Drive, but they're doing an internal connection to parking that should alleviate some of that. And it's just the trials and tribulations of a very successful business. It's probably one of the most successful businesses in the town. It's a great problem to have, but a problem we do need to figure out some ways. And I do think they're parking on dirt now, but I do think once the Liberty Point development is built and completed, what typically happens is when you're talking about shared parking agreements, most of Dirtbag L's is activity is on weekends. Industrial developments are not open on weekends. So what I'm hoping that will happen is once that 73 acres of parking is finished, then that may help some of that overflow as well. So I do commend them for taking the steps they've had, because if you recall, about a year ago, we had a public safety nightmare out there. And they're doing some things to try to mitigate that. So I do commend them for that.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Chancellor, I did have one call from a gentleman that lives out in that area, and he was concerned about, again, the traffic along the main road. And I know we have no control over that, but do we have a tool that we can use to talk to the state or the county about that?
Typically for all these developments, because Corporation Drive is a DOT road, they have to go through DOT. If you recall, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the subdivision that is beside their Bagels, they had to do 300 feet of right-of-way dedication on each side of that entrance for a deceleration lane. The deceleration lanes are typically a mechanism that's pushed by DOT that it creates a dedicated lane that allows people to get access to that development without clogging traffic. I'm pretty sure for a 6-acre commercial development, they're going to ask for the same thing. So to answer your question, DOT is typically the agency, and we do request for comments at the very beginning, and we factor in DOT's comments, but depending on the magnitude of the development, a road diet kicks in. If it's a large development, it may create a requirement for a traffic impact study. If it's not, it may require a stoplight. It may require deceleration lanes. These are the things that are determined by DOT as it relates to their evaluation of it, and then we factor that into our approvals. But we don't have the mechanism to enforce these regulations on DOT roads. We lean on their process for that.
I know we looked at that last year, if you recall, and when you drive at nighttime especially, and if it's raining, it's worse to face oncoming traffic, and I'm just afraid somebody's going to get killed or something on that road.
I will say there's a lot of activity over there. DOT is pretty much very well and intricately involved, but we basically lean on their interpretation in terms of the magnitude of the developments. I think you guys open the public hearing.
Okay. Motion to open public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing.
Okay, at this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this annexation?
Motion to close public hearing.
Is there anyone here that would like
I'm
to speak
sorry.
against this annexation? Anyone that would like to speak against this annexation? Okay,
Motion to close public
the
hearing.
public hearing is now closed. Do we have action by the board?
I can't read it, so.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve annexation A 2022-04 and authorize the staff to begin the initial zoning process to designate the development under the CP planned commercial district.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you, sir. All right, next thing on our agenda is public comments, and we do have one person that has signed up, and that's James, and is it Fadis? Fade? Okay.
Just a high speed there.
Can you get there? If you'll give your name and address, and then before you start your comments, okay?
Madam Mayor, thank you and council for allowing me to speak tonight. My name's James Faddis. I live at 2156 Sir Michael Drive in Oatmeal. I moved here about 3 years ago into a beautiful neighborhood. It's got sidewalks on both sides, really nice development. West Hampton's the name of it. But I think, I feel like now they've sold us a good place to live, but they only give us dirt road access to it. There's no easy way to get into our neighborhood and the neighborhoods behind us. Because I know you're over at Deaver Street, that's impassable. Applegate is the one that concerns me most, because a lot of people turn off of Camden Road onto Applegate Road, and there used to be a lot of trucks that park there, and now the road's collapsing. There's no way to pass two cars. One of them has to stop before you can, before one pass and the other. And I'm afraid eventually it's getting worse. The problem's getting worse. And I would just like whatever department takes care of roads, at least to come out and look at it. The whole road's not that bad. It's just where they used to park these semis on the weekends or whatever when they were home. They don't park there anymore, but they destroyed that road. The other only option between Devers and Applegate is Summer Road, I think it's called. It runs by the school right down here. And then you're going through another two neighborhoods to get to your home. And if you try to do that during school time, when they're letting kids in or letting kids out or bringing them in the morning, you're going to sit there for 30 to 45 minutes because everybody's jammed on that two little unmarked road there, trying to get their children picked up. So I would just like to ask, that be looked into, Applegate Drive and maybe something on Devers again. I understand that's a private road, but it's highly traveled by the people that live in the apartments down there. So it's highly traveled, and it's hard to get access to those businesses on Devers Street. So I understand it's private, but it seemed like something has to be worked out if it's open to the public. That I don't break an axle when I'm driving through there.
Right.
You understand, or blow a tire or something. But though it's like living on Oatmeal's Lake, but the only way you get to it is is on a dirt road or a gravel road, and it just doesn't seem appropriate. There's a couple hundred houses back there, less than 10 years old, or right at 10 years old, I think, and no way to get there. So I appreciate your time, and
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. It was nice working with you. She was sweating hard last week or a couple weeks ago at the Red Cross meeting.
That concludes public comments. Next, we have our consent agenda, and I've been asked to read the consent agenda, and then, of course, we're moving items F, G, and H, and I won't read those. But our consent agenda consists of consideration of approval of draft minutes from May 16th, 2022, regular Board of Commissioners meeting, consideration of approval of draft minutes from March 11th, 2022, special Board of Commissioners meeting, consideration to accept budget amendment number 27, receiving federal ARPA funding in the amount of $5,051,050. Consideration to accept budget amendment number 28 for general fund expenditures, including additional election costs and Lake Park additional parking lot in the amount of $97,500. And the election cost is because the way the elections had to be run this year, because we had our elections, even though the rest of the county and municipal elections didn't have theirs, because, theirs just happened in May. And then consideration to accept budget amendment 29 for fuel expenditures in the amount of $16,000. And consideration of acceptance of streets and infrastructure in Valley End Phase 2 and adoption of resolution R2022-18. And again, the funding that we received that is not included in the budget, those funds are designated funds for projects, capital improvement projects. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Okay, now we go to old business, and we have none. New business, consideration approval of the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board draft bylaws. And we have received a copy of those. Are you going to say something about that,
I was
Mr.
just
McLaughlin?
I got a call expressing some interest in just publicly stating, I think you recall us in an email out saying that I was in support of it. The approval of the amendment to the bylaws. If you recall, even though we did split from the county, we still rely on them for planning board services. We're talking to them about the typical interlocal agreement with them, but this particular agreement I'm in full support of. We utilize them for those services still.
Okay, any questions for Mr. McLaughlin? If not, do we have a motion to approve the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board draft bylaws?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we approve the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board, agreement? Bylaws.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next item on our agenda is consideration of resolution R 2022-19, setting a public hearing date for annexation A 2022-05 3680 Elk Road. And that's behind tab 15.
Yeah. And that's the one I did not.
And this is just,
To set a public hearing.
setting up a date for public hearing. That's all it is.
Madam Mayor, I make that motion to approve R 2022-19, setting a public hearing date of 7 p.m. June 20th, 2022 for possible annexation of A 2022-05.
Okay?
Your computer's not on. No.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a second. We set a hearing date for June 20th. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you. All right, next we have item C, which was requested to add discussion for a workshop session. And I'll let Dr. McCrae give us an explanation of why that is necessary and when she wants to have it.
Madam Mayor, I had spoken with Mr. McLaughlin and also mentioned it to town manager and our clerk about a workshop discussing overlays. The cases that'll be brought that were pulled from consent, I think we'll take care of that if we set a workshop to cover overlays. And if there's any other discussion items that the council would like to address, since our Board of Commissioner meetings are packed with a lot of things sometimes, we just want to set a different date for that. And I think that Mr. McLaughlin said July 18th will give him enough time to get that information together for us, and so that we won't have to bring staff back on a different night. We thought we would set that date at 6 p.m., July 18th at 6 p.m. before our regular board meeting.
6 p.m.
Okay. So we have it.
July 8th.
July 18th.
Okay, we have a recommendation for a workshop at 6 p.m. on July 18th. That will work for everyone. That will be prior to our regular board meeting at 7. Does that work? Okay. All right, so we put that in form of a motion. Okay, if you put that in form of a motion that we have a workshop on July 18th at 6 p.m.
Second that. I think she made the motion more or less.
Okay. We have Dr. McCray made the motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. All righty then. All right, that takes care of that. Item D is item F from the consent agenda, and that is non-hearing case number Development -010-22, consideration of discount tire, CP, Planned Commercial District Development Review, Oatmeal zoning ordinance zoned CP, acreage 1.02 acreage, plus or minus, located at 2880 Hope Mills Road, and submitted by Donneville Group, a developer on behalf of Hall Properties LLC.
Again, that stated, this is DEV 1022, CP Plan Commercial. The site is a 1.02 acre parcel. It's part of the existing Mill Village project where you see Fit for Life. If you recall, and I have the site plan later in the presentation, but when you approved the Mill Village development, you approved it as a much larger development. So what you're seeing is Fit for Life has been open. You're seeing now the facilitation of the development of the portions of the site. The adjacent properties to the north, south, east, and west are all zoned commercial. This portion of the development along Hope Mills Road fronts about, I wouldn't say fronts 164 feet on Hope Mills Road because it's not facing Hope Mills Road. If you look at the site plan, I'll show you, faces the interior piece. But this portion of the site has about 164 feet. The front is along Hope Mills Road. The applicant is proposing a 9,998 square foot discount tire facility. There'll be 2 points of egress and ingress, one from an internal drive that's being built, and then one that is gonna connect to a proposed fast food restaurant that's gonna be built in front of it. There's a total of 38 parking spaces provided, and in terms of the sidewalks, they have already been installed by the master developer. This is an aerial photograph. What you see just south of that yellow hashed in area is Sonic. So this portion of the site, it'll basically butt right to Sonic, and it'll face the north. So the back of the building is what'll be adjacent to Sonic. It won't face Hope Mills Road, which is why I explained that frontage issue. This is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the two arrows to the north west, that's the cross point access to the adjacent property that's going to be developed in front of it. And to the south west portion of the site, you'll see the two arrows. That's the interior connection. That's basically it. One thing, I'll wait until the third case before I go into detail about what I think is a solution to some of your concerns. But our recommendation for this is approval. This is the overall Mill Village site plan. The blocked area in yellow is where the site, the subject property is currently proposed. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are they already working on that?
They're doing site work for the overall the development, but I don't think they technically better not be working on this.
I just see a lot of construction going on that end.
We have been dealing with them for quite some time. One thing I want to let you guys know before anything is appearing on this agenda for consideration by you guys, we've had extensive conversations with most of these projects. It's very rare that you're going to get a project that I'm asking for approval from, but we haven't had any dealings with them. But this is basically the next phase of development for the Mill Village project. As we get engaged for future developments, I'll definitely keep you guys up to date.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
it says general tire discount. Now, is this gonna be your typical tire shop, or would it offer any of the amenities along with that?
From my understanding, it's your typical discount tire place. The one that I am aware of, if you are familiar with the Chick-fil-A by Aldi's on Rayford Road, it's a discount tire there. They basically just do tires. From my understanding, I'm not aware of any other services they provide, but this is mirroring that establishment. And I think one thing I want to clarify too, you see a lot of these motor vehicle related developments coming. I want to make sure you understand that they aren't all exactly the same.
Yeah.
What we have in Elk and Legion, we have the Circle K gas station across from Legion. That is an oil lube place, so that's just oil changes. We just approved the development beside Coffin Commons. That is full service. And then you got a couple tire places. But like I said, at the end of the third presentation, I think I have a solution that will address some of the concerns about saturation and things of that nature.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of discount tires. I mean, they have, you know, me personally speaking, because I go through a lot of tires on my Jeep, they have really great warranties on their tires. There was a lot of them in Texas when I was stationed in Fort Hood, but yeah, they're tires and rims and stuff like that. Yeah.
We almost have as many tire shops in Hope Mills now as we do pizza parlors.
Or car washes.
Got more, I think.
Tobacco shops.
Tobacco shops. Yeah.
The tobacco stores, right?
Okay, any questions?
Motion.
Motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number DEV 010-22.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand, seeing none opposed. Next, we have non-hearing case number Development -01122, P1255, out parcel 2, initial zoning of 39.43 plus or minus acres to mixed-use development, CUD conditional use district, or to more restrictive zoning district located on the southeast side of Service Road 1108, Lakewood Drive, and on the north side of Service Road 1112, Rockfish Road, owned by Traymore Village Owners Association Incorporated and HCC Investments, LC. And this is behind tab 11, and I'll turn it to.
I don't have a presentation. I didn't realize you guys were pulling this one as well, but I can speak to the case. This is at Traymore Village. This, just like the Mill Village, but a little different. The reason why that case heading says P1255 initial zoning, we have to use the original case filing. So every time you see something at Traymore Village, it's just an amendment of P1255. If you notice, every one of those developments that have come over the last month is been this case heading. I will tell you that along Rockfish Road, this is the last parcel. This is out parcel number 2. If you were to orient yourself at Waldos Beach and Rockfish Road, directly across Waldos Beach is where the Mod Car Wash is going.
Right.
Yeah.
This is going right beside that.
Okay.
What's beside the Taco Bell is the existing Hope Mills fuel station.
Yeah.
Then you have Belshaw Way. Then we just approved Popeyes and Starbucks. And then you have your Domino's. So this Taco Bell between the proposed approved Mod Car Wash and the existing fuel station is the last out parcel along Rockfish Road for development. I'm hearing some rumblings and some other stuff I can't really get into deeper into the development. But this is a 1.17 acre parcel of it. If you look at the staff report, the access is internally off of Town Center Drive. DOT is not giving any more driveway permits off Rockfish Road.
Okay.
Sidewalks are required. This is just, like I said, a continuation, just like you're seeing the facilitation of the development of the remaining portions of some of these existing developments that have been here for quite some time.
Okay.
So it's gonna be across from Food Line.
Technically,
Kinda.
yeah. Kind of like catty corner across, but it's on the Traymore side.
Yeah, closer to Jack Britt, closer toward Jack Britt High School.
That's going to be busy at lunch.
It's already very busy. Wow. Yep. Y'all have any questions for Mr. McLaughlin? Okay, do we have?
Madam Mayor, I make the motion to approve case number DEV 011-22.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have non-hearing case number Development 2023-01222, consideration of Mavis Tires, Planned Service and Retail District Developmental Review, Oatmeal zoning ordinance zone C2P, acreage .79, located at 5510 Waldos Beach Drive, submitted by Buckle Design Group developer on behalf of Venture Properties. And this is behind tab 12.
As stated, for this is DEV 1222. This is right at that intersection.
Yeah.
So if you're at the intersection of Waldos Beach and Rockfish Road, this is that a really odd shaped parcel on the Jack Britt side. The entire parcel is 2.12 acres. They're developing 0.79 acres of it, and they're leaving 0.97 acres left for development. It's already zoned commercial. The official address is 5510 Waldos Beach Drive. The applicant is proposing a 6,979 square foot tire repair facility. It'll have 8 bays, 4 on each side. It's a pretty large one. It's 35 total parking spaces. Egress is off and ingress is off of Waldo Beach Drive. 5-foot sidewalks are required along Waldos Beach and Rockfish Road. This is your sketch plan, that sketch map that shows you the location of the subject property in relation to Traymore Village. This is your proposed site plan. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
what is this? A tire repair?
This is basically almost like,
Yeah.
it's kind of, I would say it's more like Pep Boys, because Pep Boys
But
is a
it's
little
right
bit
across
more-
the street.
Yeah. So when I first saw it, people asked about the saturation. And then I did a little investigating. Contact Pep Boys and ask for an oil change. You're probably a week out. That's a good problem to have, but what happens is, from my understanding, what you see with some of these developments, people are doing market studies and identifying the fact that they know there's some additional traffic and movement coming in these areas. That's why I'm thinking you're getting some of these developments, but
Convenient.
what I'll get into at the end of this development is what we can do with the concerns about the saturation. And I can go ahead and go into it now, but ultimately, there are some concerns we've had about tire shops, vape shops,
Yeah.
Used
used
car
car
lots.
lots, and things of that nature.
They all tie together though. They're convenience.
Well, there are other uses that
I mean, everybody needs
aren't
their
too
tires.
popular
Yeah, you
with
sell a
me as
car,
well.
you go get your tires changed. or get
But
'em
what we
fixed.
can do is, while we've talked about the overlay district, you got to realize if we're setting the overlay work session in July, we may have 2 work sessions, 3 work sessions to develop the language. It has to go to planning board, then it has to come back here. We may be dealing with 6 months. If we don't do something now, we're just exposed until that time frame. What I'm proposing is a moratorium that I can have language for you at the very next board meeting to list the uses, list all the ones you don't necessarily feel that are desirable, or you feel are saturating, and the moratorium doesn't eliminate them permanently. It puts a hold on those until you see fit. So what that does is it provides us with some time to draft the language for the overlays, because what the overlay is going to do is basically not going to eliminate uses in Hope Mills. It's going to restrict them to only being allowed in certain areas. But while you're drafting that language, that's what the moratorium gives you the ability to do, so you don't have to worry about, they're coming. It's like every hearing I got 2, 3, 4
Well, two in one meeting is yeah.
and so while we're considering this, that's what my pitch would be to address some of these concerns. But I will say some of these uses are economic indicators of things to come. Some of them are just uses I don't think are desirable in the areas they're coming. So I don't want to say that a used car lot is not allowed at Hope Mills.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't want to see it in front of the
Right.
post office.
Well, I'm wondering too, how has anyone from the school system had any input in this, since this is actually right there at the Jack Britt football field,
we do
and
send
because I
requests for
saw where that
comments.
strip looks like it goes right up.
Yeah, we do send requests for comments out to Cumberland County is one of our agencies. We hadn't received anything that speaks to any opposition or concerns. Most of the things we get from them are no comment, but I didn't get any feedback from them on this particular place as it relates to there being any issues. That's the only thing I can speak to from the school side.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask the town manager to work with our Mr. McLaughlin there to put that plan in place so that we can at least slow up the progress until we get something in place.
What I will have for you at the very next board meeting, I'll have a list that we can talk through, because I
Yes.
might put 5 things on the list. You may have a couple
I
things you
agree.
want to add to it,
Mhm.
but we talk through it and we just approve the moratorium, and then we begin to work. And
Right.
that just gives us some cover while we're trying to draft some language to kind of deal with some of this.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to add one more thing. I know we've approved a lot of annexation, subdivisions coming, but can we also kind of summarize, like, where the subdivisions are, how many houses are in that area,
Yeah.
the possible expected population, and kind of by area? So like the Jack Bray area, Grays Creek area,
Southview.
Southview area, so that way it can maybe kind of help us to reference back when we get in some of these requests. Like you said, probably that is because of the number of people that are probably going to be in
Let
Oatmeal
me
over
do
the next couple of years.
2 things. Let me give you that for residential and non-residential.
Okay.
Yes.
That'll work.
Because you got to realize we just annexed in an 80-acre development. Right beside this, 60 acres of commercial, 20 acres of residential. And so I think I want to be able to give you that projection and let you know. And it's not just one part of town. It's this part of town. It's Chickenfoot Road. It's just about all over Hope Mills, and it's everything you can think of.
Okay.
And so the overlays are an idea or ideas that I came up with that we can help be a little bit proactive as opposed to just accepting everything that comes. Because we get calls from a lot of stuff that some of it I don't have the ability or to stop them from filing it, and I'm looking at it like we got to do something. And so I'll give you that projection on residential and commercial, because the commercial is driving the residential. Residential is driving the commercial. We have developers that are doing residential and commercial, and they're giving, if you heard me say this term before, rooftops. They're giving me the rooftops first because that is what triggers the higher end retail.
Right.
So as you start to see how many subdivisions we have in the construction and how many rooftops it is, you'll start to see why. Why is it 5 tire places? Somebody knows there's a significant amount of people that are going to be coming to this area. That don't mean we need to do 5 tire places. It's just telling you that just because there's a demand, we might need to be a little bit more deliberate in how to deal with that. So I'll give you both of those at the next one.
Madam Mayor, well,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
you're the expert, so give us what we need to make good decisions.
Yes.
All right.
One thing I want to
Thank
say too. I go ahead and approve this. And I
Yeah,
wanna
this has got to, we have to have a motion to approve this,
Got another question, Mayor.
Yes,
if I
sir.
may. Has anybody, yourself or anyone from DOT, tried to judge the traffic that this is going to create? You got the mixed development that's going across from Food Line, and then this place is right there at the intersection.
I will tell you, DOT didn't provide any negative feedback on this one, but I will tell you that 80-acre development next door is going to trigger a traffic impact study. I do know that. And I will say that they're already in talks. So they've been talking to DOT for the 8-acre piece for about a year now. So there's stoplights that are actually being considered deceleration lanes. So as big as that project is, you're probably going to see the whole suite of regulations from DOT. But as we get closer to it, we'll start finding out more finite in terms of information, in terms of what those requirements are. But I can tell you that master development next door, they have been talking very extensively with DOT for quite some time.
Yeah, we already have 2 stoplights in that area, one at Jack Brett and one right there on the corner of Waldos Beach by the Food Line shopping center. So I don't know that they can put another one in there, or if they will or not, because of the close proximity of of the red lights. We had that problem at Dove Street because the red lights were too close. But they did the traffic island, so that kind of took care of that. But I'm worried about the rooftops, and the brick and mortar is going to outweigh what's best for us in the future, and the moratorium may be the way for us to go.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I
Motion?
make the motion to approve case number DEV 012-22.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
And before I go, I want to address something that this gentleman stated. We have another subdivision coming next month that I do think that, and I want to commend our planning staff, plan review staff, because we have been working, and this is the same guy doing the 80-acre development, is doing a subdivision that I can announce because it's been filed. But it is going to connect to Brettonwood, providing a brand main entrance off of Canyon. And so what that indirectly does, it pretty much renders Applegate a moot point. So what you're gonna have is a signalized intersection at Camden that gives access to a new 134 lot subdivision that connects to the existing Valley Inn at Brentwood. That, in my opinion, will be your new entrance into that area, but it'll be a much grander entrance that is signalized and things of that nature. So I think that does handle some of the traffic. But we've been dealing with them for quite some time, but it wasn't until last week that they actually filed the application as for a subdivision. It's the actual property that we just recently annexed in on the south side of Camden. That's the subdivision. I just couldn't disclose at the time of annexation that it's a subdivision that's making the connection to Valley Inn. We worked very extensively with the developer. He heard our concerns, and he was willing to make that connection. So I think that's something that takes an issue that we have off of our plate.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McLaughlin, do you have a time frame? Are they able to give us a time frame of how long that may take?
Not right now. I will say it's moving pretty fast. We've been talking to them for a while, but typically I always say it's not real in my world until I see a set of plans. They started with the annexation. They submitted the subdivision last week. I can find out what their timetable is, but this is what I was saying, where this guy is doing that development, 60 acres of commercial across the street and 20 acres of multifamily. Which one is he doing first? The subdivision.
That's right.
Because he wants the rooftops to be able to
That's income.
justify the retail across the street. That's typically what we hear from developers that do commercial and residential construction in terms of economic development. So you got the same guy doing all of it, but he's doing the residential first. But I'll check with them on the timetable. I do know that'll be first, but I'll find out what, I guess when the community.
But still, that's gonna be a year at least or whatever, and that Applegate Road, so many people travel.
Yeah.
And they're, it does need some, it just put them back on.
Now he's correct. That doesn't, in my world, a year and a half is light speed, but in the general public's world, that is a snail's pace. So I am talking about the success of making the connection, but it is gonna take some time before all of that is complete. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, is there any questions that you might have about the manager's report, or is there any additions to the manager's report?
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Is there, I seen that they did more stakes for the roundabout area. Do you have any information about that?
I've been in communication, Don and I are gonna meet with DOT, I think, on the 28th. Does that sound right?
Okay.
But, yeah, they've just been staking some, those are all mostly temporary easements you're seeing.
Okay.
The pins in the ground or the arches are probably the most accurate.
Okay.
Madam
But
Mayor?
they just come out and do that, we're not initiated in doing that process.
Yes, sir.
What is, how we come along with the plan for the ordinance enforcement, ordinance we talk about putting together so we can begin to find those individuals that do not want to come in compliance with the violations once y'all cite them?
So you're talking about trying to get the, collection agency?
Yes, because we got to do it. I mean, let's face it, individuals just don't give a crap. You know, as long as they don't give a crap, we'll not get anything done. It's time for accountability and responsibility to take the lead on some of this stuff.
We've had a lot of code action lately. Some of the things we've been really working on have actually gotten good compliance from the property owners. Maybe it was at one of them recently. It's hard because you get to that long notification and 30 days, if something's not compliant, it feels like a long time. But so we're still trying to find collection agency that doesn't require like social security number and some of that other information that can just take over our obligation. So that we can file those liens or if we actually just go after and prove it on that side. There is a lot of lost revenue associated with code enforcement action. That's one of our top priorities to get that figured out.
Yeah, it's passive income. Got to get it.
Madam Mayor, I have one more question. I don't know if you can answer it with, or if the police chief can answer it. Did you hear about the threat at the lake park? Was there any truth to it? Was it rumor or?
That was on the Nextdoor app. That's
Yes.
where it originally circulated. We did get 2 calls. One wasn't very specific with any information. The second call had more specifics, but wasn't much for us to follow up on. But it appears that the person was threatened, knew the people that were threatening him, so it was individual specific as opposed to community specific, so there's no threat to the people in the lake.
Madam Mayor. Chief, how often do we patrol the lake area, especially when it's busy like it was this past weekend? How often?
Well, it's right on Main Street, so there's always patrol cars going in and out of there. So it's
Okay.
it's very accessible to us because we got to get back and forth to headquarters there. So there's a high police presence in the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have one more question for you, Chief. Now, I know because of the warmer weather, we see a lot more ATVs and non-street legal vehicles. Is there, I know it ties up the police force to constantly call. Do you have any suggestions what citizens can do as far as
They
with
can
that?
call. The problem we have with that is that they're going to run right away, and they have the ability to go off road where our patrol cars can't go. So those kind of chases of those vehicles are dangerous, inherently dangerous in and of itself. But the ability to get off the road and get away from us is what facilitates their ability to drive around like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we do try. I did see one today, but by the time you can turn around, they're off the road and they're gone. So they can call and we can see what we can do, but that's the issue. We deal with that. We do have a, if it's area specific, we do have a side-by-side, and we're looking to get some more through our LISO program for free to more ATVs. Then maybe we can initiate a patrol in an area that has those frequent problems. But that's something we can look at in the future.
Okay.
And one other question, how you come along with the panhandling? Because I seem to see a decrease of individuals on the street. Seem like here lately.
We passed that ordinance, right? The ordinance.
That was in the last one.
I know what I'm saying. How we come along,
It
not
was
the ordinance,
passed, right?
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
panhandlers out there because I've seen a decrease in the panhandlers on the street. Have not seen as many as I normally do.
Yeah, well, we do our best to move along, and now that we have some teeth in that ordinance, then we could, it makes it easier for us to enforce, so. But
Well-
our officers are on that.
Thank you. I see some progress. So thank you very much.
Good.
No
And
other
I'd like
questions?
to also thank you for being at Memorial Day service, and thank you for being at the 30th anniversary of the library. That's,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
you were
thank you
well
for that too.
received there, and I think that was nice for you to attend.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chief, while you're here, I want to congratulate you on how quick you solved the shootings up here in the apartments. I appreciate you being on top of that.
Yeah, that was a great team effort I had very little to do with it. I just lead the team, but our guys worked around the clock on that with the SBI, and that was solved only by good old-fashioned police work, shaking the trees, looking at video surveillance, doing canvases. There was no tips. That was all just hard work from the guys and girls. So thank you. I'll pass it along.
My wife about freaked out.
One other question.
That's my neighborhood. My wife about freaked out.
Chief, I have one other question for you. Who did you pay to make all those great comments about you on the next door neighbor? The great comments. They say, hey, our police chief, he's great. He does an awesome job. Who did you pay?
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I do have a question, for the town manager. I don't know if it's appropriate for the work session or another, board meeting, but is there any way we can get BOC here? They came about 2 years ago to give us an update. He actually was virtual, but I think a lot of citizens there's a lot of conversation, especially because of the stakes that's out, just to kind of update people, remind people on some of the changes with the round. Maybe we'll have the updates about the roundabouts. I know they're doing the extended I-295 with Black Bridge, so if they are available to kind of give us an update, I think it'll help the public and help us as well.
Andrew Barksdale, that's who came last time, and Andrew Barksdale is the one that has been, he worked with WRAL TV and some others that have had questions, so he's somebody that's his role, so we could contact him, and I'm sure he would come in person, because he was real quick to respond when we had him come virtually.
Yeah, I've actually already been in touch with him and Richie and the project manager on this. But I'll just let him know you want a general update on local projects.
Yeah, we did that when we had our gateway meeting also. We had someone give us information about the road, so that when we were looking at what I-295 was going to look like when we were having those gateway meetings, and it was beneficial because then you could transfer that out and people would, if they had questions, the board would be able to answer a question too. Okay. All righty. All right, next we have our committee liaisons update. Commissioner Marley is not here yet, but I don't believe he left anything about historic preservation. Commissioner Mitchell, do you have anything with your appearance commission or RULAC?
Yeah, we met the last, Tuesday of last month, and they are focusing on making sure that we have some nice decorations for this upcoming holiday season, and they are also now working on Yard of the Month. The mayor and I went to the RULAC committee. Must gonna knock that one out too, and it was a very informative meeting, and there might be some opportunities for us to even get some funding out of it, I believe, and that's about it.
Okay. Commissioner Scrolla, Veterans Affairs.
Of course, the big thing with the Veterans Affairs is the monument. We're having a lot of good information, getting a lot of good input. It just, it's time consuming. It's going to take time. Trying to see if there was anything else. Of course, we had the Memorial Day ceremony. It came out really, really good. Plans, we'll have to see how everything works out for as far as November and Veterans Day, but just rolling along.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Parks and Rec, and Prime Movers.
I'll start out with the short one first. For the Prime Movers, they're hosting another family fun field day on July 16th, trying to get a DJ, picture booth, food trucks, trying to make it, bigger than it was last year. So I'll be giving you more information about that and in our next meeting. They did have a winner they did a social media campaign for Mother's Day. There was a mother that received a $50 Visa gift card. They'll be doing the same for Father's Day. That runs from June 12th through the 18th. And it says tag a dad for a chance to win a $50 Visa gift card. I wasn't there, so I'm reading the notes. I was at my niece's graduation Thursday night. And they are working closely with the Fayetteville Millennial Council to do some things as well, which is great, which is what we want to do. We want our millennials working together throughout the county. And that is all for the Hope Mills Prime Movers right now. The Parks and Rec, I'll be very detailed. I know there's been a couple of questions asked about some of our bigger projects, so I'll make sure that I'm very detailed. With the Chapel restroom, DK and Sons Construction Incorporation is continuing with the pre-construction services. including ordering the building materials. The site plan has been submitted to Development Services for a conditional rezoning by the Cumberland County Zoning Board, which is what's taking a little bit more time. That it did spark, the building capacity was for 96 people. And so they needed additional 24 parking spots due to the occupancy guidelines. Heritage Park, the design is 70% complete with the construction documents, and they have been submitted with a review of set of comments by the town staff. And the McAdams, they're working with McAdams to write a NCDEQ Water Resources Development Grant application, which could yield us another $100,000. So that's good news. And the grant will be specifically for construction of the historic water flume, interpretive exhibits, and educational materials related to the Oatmeal. The archaeological survey has been submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office. Municipal splash pad and playground, McAdams is 90% complete with the construction documents, and they have incorporated all their value engineering recommendations from the town. And I guess depending on where we are, we want to add any of this as a work session for some updates from Mr. Morrison. We can. Mayor Warner has already read over what we're doing with the ARPA funding. And I wanted to give a shout out to Girl Scout Troop 706. They used the Parks and Rec building for no extra fee, but they did present the town with a check for letting us let them use the building, and they did take that from their cookie funds. And on October the 29th, they're going to kind of change up Oatmeal Day. They're going to call it Bites, Booze, and Brews. Summer camps, please continue to tell people about the summer activities that we have for children in our community. They had their weeks 1 through 9 were full. For week 10, they did say that they still had a few slots still available. And some of the camps and classes they're offering through FTCC, some of them are offered by our town Parks and Rec staff. And the drama camp was full. They think they were going to be able to run another one. The furniture class that is it's a trades academy for middle school kids at Southview Middle. That's July 25 through July 28th. They have enough kids for that, but they still have openings for other programs. So you'll have to see our Parks and Rec website or either the FTCC Summerscape sites to see which classes are still available for our children. Athletic report. The season ended May 31st, but we are going into All-Stars. We have 4 softball teams and 6 baseball teams. And the tournament will be in Pembroke this year. Scholarship catalogs, sponsorship catalogs. Lamarco was going to present us a copy of that. It looks really good. It's an opportunity for people to be able to sponsor some of our events. And I think he's already gotten some sponsorships, people that are interested in sponsorships based on the catalog that they created. It looks really good. The transportation, the Parks and Rec Committee just said that we need to do an awareness to let people know that it's will be in our community, because otherwise people won't know about it. The Sunshine Committee, Casey will be the representative for that committee, and the mayor did ask for a representative from Parks and Recs. We didn't get anybody to sign up, but they did give some good advice on some different things that you all could cover. And then there was a concern about programs for 13 to 17-year-olds, having more summer activities for those children in our community. And I think that is all.
Great job.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Do some more time.
Breathe now.
All right, here comes mine. Mayor's Youth Leadership Committee. We did have our last meeting at our last board meeting, but I this year did something different, and that was that I actually had they voted that they wanted cords in recognition, because most of them had been on the committee for 2 years, and this had been a very active committee. So the seniors, I went to the award ceremonies and presented cords and their certificates, and just made the community within the school aware of what they've been doing. And from that, we were able to get another partnership. And this past Saturday, we had about 100 youth, some from Lumberton, some from Dunn, some from Clinton, and then the rest from Hope Mills. And they helped work on Gilmont Cemetery again. And this was because when I went to Jack Britt, they heard me talking about what we had been doing at Gilmont Cemetery and that we were through until the next group came along. So Mr. Paul McAllister called me and said he would like to volunteer their group through their church, and they met me down there at 8 o'clock or 8:30 Saturday morning, and they did a great job, but still more to do. The Mid-Carolina Council of Governments, tomorrow at 2, we will actually have our first official in-person meeting that we have. We haven't been able to do anything the past 2 years other than by Zoom, but this will be in person. And I am the Mid-Carolina Council representative for Cumberland County as appointed by the county commissioners, but now as after this coming up meeting, I'll also be the senior Tar Heel representative delegate by appointment, and that just means that I get to go to Raleigh for special meetings, and I'll miss the first one, which is this coming up Monday. FAMPO, the Transportation Board, we did meet, and we met in person, and a lot of good information, but a lot of that information I don't have with me this evening, but again, right now what we're working on is the STIP, which is the plan for future development, so it goes all the way through years that I probably won't be around to see the roads being developed because they plan so far out. So I think we're up to 2040 now. And then the FCDC Municipal Advisory Meeting, we didn't have one, so don't have to worry about that one. We did have a Mayor's Coalition meeting, and we'll have another one that's going to be countywide elected, and that's going to be in August. The Sunshine Committee, which really Mr. Commissioner Marley and Mitchell and I shared responsibility for, we did meet. That committee is developing and asked for surveys to find out what our senior citizens in the community would like to have. We have, I did meet with the librarian, and that's a source of a location for activities related to the computers and related to books. And then, of course, the Veterans Post 10630 is a site at least once a month they can use as an additional activities that we can plan along with what our Parks and Rec does. And that committee wants to be very active because they're actually going to partner with the prime movers as far as planning this Family Fun Day. So that is all I have. Staff comments. Do we have any staff comments? No staff comments? Y'all are silent over there. All right, next do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 143-318-A6 personnel and 143-318-11A5 contract discussion and 143-318-11A3 attorney-client advice.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
So I have a motion, second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. We will be going to the front conference room, and we'll be back as quickly as we can. Thank you.
I thought I could stand and be ready to go.
At this time, I'll call our meeting back to order. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move to seal the minutes of the closed session until such as the time of the release of the information would no longer frustrate the purpose of the closed session and further no action was taken.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. And I would like to ask our town manager to introduce our new human resources lady. She's been here all evening,
Yeah.
and I think it's appropriate now that we introduce her.
Lisa Jensen is here. She is our new HR director. She actually lives in Fayetteville.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Thank you. All righty. Do we have another motion?
I do have a motion, but I'd like to thank Drew, all the town staff, and everyone who had anything to do with drawing this budget up and cutting the numbers. I want to thank you. I enjoy these easy times sometimes. So
All right.
thank you. I make a motion that we go home.
What?
Adjourn.